Thanks, David. State Senator Andre Jacques, as well as members of the Wisconsin Senate Committee on Natural Resources, Veteran and Military Affairs, met this afternoon. Lawmakers talking about funding for housing and recovery programs for veterans throughout the state. Victoria Frazier joining us live in the newsroom with details from that hearing today. Victoria.
Cammie, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle spoke out today about the closure of two veteran housing and recovery programs, one in Chippewa Falls, the other one here in Green Bay. State Senators Andre Jacques and Romaine Robert Quinn introduced Senate Bill 411 earlier this month. That bill focuses on eligibility changes, tax credits, and providing housing and recovery programs for veterans. Last week, the final veteran moved out of the program shelter in Green Bay, the Chippewa Falls location closing its doors the week prior. The buildings housed veterans facing temporary homelessness. Governor Tony Evers requested $1.9 million in the 2025-2027 state budget to save those shelters, but it was denied by the Joint Finance Committee and the money was not in the final budget. One veteran who attended the hearing pleading with lawmakers to keep the program running.
The VHRPs are not a burden. They are an asset. They're often the last line of defense before a veteran becomes chronically homeless. We all know there's a cost to keeping these programs open and staffed, but I also ask you to consider, what is the cost of saying no?
State Senator Eric Wimberger says he sent a letter to Governor Evers last week explaining how the housing and recovery programs could stay open.
I gave them the receipts about how they did things last year, that the same, in fact, an increase of funding was provided in comparison to last year. They're just simply refusing to spend it.
Lawmakers say the Chippewa Falls and Green Bay housing and recovery locations could reopen by next October if funding is reallocated to the program. Cammie.